Step 8 continued. Joining. This step follows on from the previous one. You should now have the base of your tea lighthouse with the supports joined on. You will need the same equipment as before, the skewer, the brush and the wooden knife. Little bowl of clay and white vinegar or some water. For this bit, make sure that there's no little burrs, little bits of clay on your surface so that it is nice and clean and tidy. Get your facade. Be very careful not to bend it too much. Bending the clay at this point, when bits have been cut out, can cause stresses, and sometimes these will later on turn into cracks. If you're holding it, make sure that you hold it with your fingers spread out like this so that it is well supported and isn't bending too much. Firstly, score the surface where the facade will join. So we're cross-hatching, short strokes going one direction, and then the other. It is quite good to be very thorough here. It can get a little bit boring just doing a long piece of clay like this, but if you pay attention and do it really well, your join will be nice and strong. You don't want it falling apart in the kiln or while it is drying. Now draw a line where it will join onto your facade, just very lightly. You can slightly bend these bits of clay here, the supports if you want, provided that the clay is not too dry. Now I've got some light lines marked in to show where my join will be. And spend some time here cross-hatching this surface to make sure that there's a proper key where the two surfaces will touch. If your paintbrush is dry, you can use it to chase away some of the burrs. If it's a little bit wet, just wipe it on your tea towel. Have your facade lying down on the surface when you do this, As it is the taller bit of clay, it's more likely to deform if you do this the opposite way around. Put some vinegar in your little ball of clay and swirl around, or use a few drops of water and swirl these around to mix the clay really well into a lovely, smooth, thick slip. It should be like thick cream. Take your facade, take your base and layer the slip on really well without destroying the cross thatching underneath. I'm going to need a little bit more. Once you've got a good amount of slip on there, take your base, position all the pieces and press downwards nice and hard to make sure the surfaces join really well and evenly. Make sure it's lined up. Now dry off the brush, remove the excess slip from your brush and start pushing it down into the join, removing the excess as you go. If you notice any kind of darker bits where the slip has not gone in properly, you can get a little bit more and add it at this stage. Add lots on first and then remove the excess. Do not use just plain water on its own. Make sure you're always only using slip. And try to remove any wet slip anywhere you see it. Should all be taken away so all the joins are dry at the end. If you leave it to dry on its own, big globules of slip, these can cause cracks. This is because clay shrinks as it dries. Pay attention to the underneath as well. Adding some extra slip to fill in any little holes that you can see. Clean off your brush. And then remove the excess slip. If you'd like to tidy up the joins, from the outside. Use the end of the wooden knife. Always support the clay underneath. Knit the surfaces together by moving up and down from one surface to the other and then downwards in the opposite direction. Right at the end, you can smooth it with the side of the wooden knife. Repeat on the other side. Knit the surfaces together, moving up and then down again. It's very similar to the cross-stitching technique, moving clay from one surface to the other. Smooth with your finger. Now I've just dipped my finger in a little bit of water and I'm going to go over the edges just to round them off a little bit. You can skip this bit if you're happy with the result so far. Make sure not to drip water. Use the smallest amount that you can. And now we're almost there. In the next video, I will show you how to dry your facade carefully so that it doesn't warp or crack during drying, and we'll also talk about bringing it in to us for firing. Thank you.